Welcome to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Now, here's your hosts, Gary Kelley and Brad Avergon.
Good morning and welcome to All Things Real Estate on WCRN. I'm Gary Kelley with RE/MAX Executive Realty, and I am joined as always by the debonair and illustrious
Brad Avergon with Envision Bank and Mortgage.
I'm holding on to summer. I'm in a more of a casual polo shirt. You're in the office, you're working hard. I'm holding on to summer, whatever's left of it.
I hear you, Gary. I'm with you, though. I'm absolutely with you. Let's hang on to summer as long as we can.
One of the things I get asked a lot these days is what's going on in the market right now? I've been asked that for years, but now it tends to be, with the way the market is, you put something on the market and it sells immediately, et cetera. It's got to be really easy being a real estate agent right now. Is it easy being a loan officer right now, Brad?
I don't think I would use the adjective easy. I don't think it's personally, judging by the deals that I'm seeing, and maybe I'm just fortunate, I don't think anything, whether it's you're acting as a realtor or as a mortgage person, is easy right now. It's certainly busy, but it seems like every deal that, I'm looking at has some sort of complication or something that's come out of left field at one point in the process and kind of stir things up. And fortunately, we've been really good at being able to quell them down and keep the deals together, but it has definitely not been easy. How about you, Gary? How are you seeing things?
I don't think it's been easy. I think it's been interesting. I think one of the things that's creeping in right now, and I don't know if it's COVID related or not, but people just seem angry. On any topic, people are angry. So we've had people where they've gotten offers on their house that are over asking, and they're angry that it's just 10,000 over asking. And it's like, hold on, we set a price that we thought was fair, and you're not happy that it's not more over asking. And it's like, at some point you say, is it greed? Is it, looking over their shoulder at their neighbors, et cetera? It's just not necessarily been a fun time when people get just it's in real estate's a large expenditure. It's often emotional, but people just seem to come at things now from the standpoint of being angry. And that's a struggle.
Yeah, I would say I've been using the word contentious. Things seem to be contentious between buyers and sellers. I had a deal recently where an attorney was involved and was creating havoc, attorney representing the seller, was creating havoc on the transaction for no particular reason at all, other than this was his, style of doing business or whatever, and almost blew the deal. And the buyer was frustrated. I think the seller was frustrated. Certainly the realtors were frustrated, and we were frustrated. It was just it took away from what you and I and I think the other realtors and mortgage people strive for, which is to create a kind of a harmonious transaction where everybody feels good about it. Everybody feels like they've won along the way. When you get these types of contentious attitudes, it really can make it disruptive. And I think that's where, having you as a realtor act as maybe a buffer sometimes, or me as a loan officer act as a buffer, I think that can help smooth out some of those bumps. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And it's, you do get into the point that if everything's contentious and then you're knocking heads on everything, that's just not fun. I have far more fun, and I'll put quotes around that, if you're the loan officer, because I feel very comfortable picking up the phone and saying, Brad, what the heck is going on with this particular loan? Or using, we've got a handful of attorneys that we tend to use, and being able to call one of them up and say, why are we being stick in the muds on this topic? Why can't we get this, clarified? Makes it far easier. That is something that I think that we sometimes lose sight of, is people do buy from people. And if you've got a team of people that you've worked with kind of regularly, you know where the other person's coming from, you know what their value sets are, and it makes things easier. It's not the same if you've got an agent that's new, and I don't want to trounce on new agents because they're trying to do their thing to learn the business. But when they call up and say, I don't have access to the key to open the electronic key to open up the house, you know, okay, we talked that through. But when they come with arrogance and they say, we don't use those keys where I, yeah, well, okay, I'm glad that you don't use those keys. How are you gonna get in the house? So that's always good. Brad, one of the other things that seems to be coming up now is the crash. I remember years ago, I worked for Fidelity Investments in the life insurance business, and we had one of the mutual funds was PBHG Tech and Communications, and it was a rocket ship. And it was going so fast that we actually put out a note to the investors saying, you know, this isn't going to go forever. Just make sure you know what you're doing. And sure enough, it corrected. And we had people calling up saying that note is what caused the stock to, or the fund to go down. Do you think that we're standing at the precipice of a crash, of a bubble, any of that stuff?
I really don't, Gary. I've been doing this for over 34 years, so I've seen a lot of markets. I've been in, the 78 market. I've been in the dips along the way. I've also been in the markets like the one we're coming out of, where the sky is the limit. Things are just going to keep on rising, and it's just going to be glorious at the end of the day. And the reality is, I think a more normal market is one where you can see inventory consumed over a 30 to 60 day period over time, and that you constantly have an influx. Based on what I'm seeing, I don't think that we're going to hit a crash. I don't. There is just too much infrastructure here. There's way too much demand. I still have a file cabinet filled with pre-approved buyers that some of which have been looking for over a year, looking to purchase homes that still haven't done that yet, been able to do that yet, and so and they're qualified, and so there is still a lot of pent-up demand, and I think we're going to continue to see an absorption rate. I don't think it's going to be the craziness, and I do emphasize the word crazy, because what we saw, what we're coming out of, was not a normal market. So sellers that think that that's the way things were going to be ongoing, I think you're mistaken to believe that. That is not what a normal market looked like. A normal market, in my opinion, and please feel free to chime in, usually is like, I would think 3%, 5%, inflation per year. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, Gary?
I don't think we're standing on the edge of a crash, and I hope that I'm right. I look at it and say, as we record this, the government stimuluses are coming to an end. You still have places that can't find people to work, which tells me that, actually tells me a number of things, but let's not talk vaccinations and things like that. The people that want to work are working, and people need homes. And it's not a case of, one theory is, well, the government stimulus is going to stop and there's going to be a whole wave of evictions. Well, I do think that there's going to be some evictions, but by and large, the people that I talk to that own lots of properties, their tenants have continued to pay rent through all of this, and they haven't needed to use the protection. I'm not saying that there's not some that have used it and that it hasn't harmed some investors, because it has. But what I'm saying is, generally speaking, I think that we're beginning to go back to a more normalized market, not one where, you look at someone and you say, well, I know that the price on this house is $279,000. It's probably going to start at $315,000. And if you're not prepared to do that, then let's not spend a lot of time looking at it.
Yeah, I would agree. My concern is, Gary, you're going to get a lot of folks that looked at what happened over the last year and say, well, my neighbor sold their house down the street 6 months ago or a year ago for, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over what the recommendation would be today. And I think that could be a mistake. Are you starting to see some inventory that is coming on the market that may be overpriced, sitting a little bit longer?
Absolutely, no question about it. People are, at the end of the day, realtors give their input to what pricing should be, but it's ultimately the owner that sets the market value. And I think the owner, confronted with fact, will still go with what happened to their neighbor down the street and say, they put it on the market, it sold in 10 minutes. There was a line of people looking at the open house, and I want the same thing. And so they are going in with an expectation from that time. And I believe, again, we're not coming into a crash from my perspective, but I believe that we're coming into a more normal environment where we're not going to see people writing blank checks for whatever. Hey, Brad, I think it's time that we take a break and pay some bills with the radio station. How would someone go about reaching you?
The best way to reach me, Gary, is via my cell phone, which is 978-375-5531, or my email, which is bavergon@envisionbank.com. Gary, how do they reach you?
I'm at 508-733-6005 or Gary@movewithgary.com. Let's take a break and we'll come right back, Brad, and let's talk about timing the market.
Sounds good, Gary.
You've been listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.